Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. Welcome, and thank you for joining us for this webinar with Mr. Jeff Allen, How the Agile Scrum Master Training Can Give Your Career a Leg Up. For professionals that have not yet adopted Agile methods, it's time to take that leap, because as a desired skill, Scrum training opens the door to over 340,000 openings in the US alone, with an average take-home of $103,000. So if you want to claim your share of that opportunity, Jeff is here to show you the career and business potential that can be unlocked with the Agile Scrum Master certification. And he'll explain how best it can give you that career boost you're looking for. If you're not familiar with Jeff, I want to fix that right now. He is a consultant for National Business Administration, focusing on Agile, Waterfall, and hybrid project management. He has 35 years of experience as a trainer, presenter, and content developer, and he has conducted over 250 training sessions on Agile Scrum Master, PMP, PMI-ACP, and PMI-RMP exam prep. For over 5,000 participants, he has held varied and important roles in his career, including Vice President of BizDev in HP, Executive Director of the California Commission on the US Bicentennial, and Director of the National Center for Constitutional Studies. A very experienced and wise gentleman we have here with us, and we're lucky to be learning from him today. But before we get started, I want to make sure that everybody knows how their dashboard works and that you're hearing us okay. So take a look at your dashboard and find yourself the questions module. That's the spot where you can type in a question. This is not the chat module, but the question module. And just go ahead and type hello in there for me if you would. Just say hi to Jeff and let us know that you can hear us and that you're excited to get rolling and ready to learn. I see Lisa says hello there. Fantastic. Hi, Rob and Richard and Juvencio. Terrific. That tells me that you can hear me. Austin, Texas. Deanna, you were here with us yesterday, I think. I love the barbecue in Austin. That tells me you can hear us okay and that you know how to use the questions module. So that questions module will remain your best friend. If you have questions during the presentation, this is where you type them, and we'll collect them all together. And Jeff will go ahead and do his presentation front to back. It's going to take maybe 30 minutes, and then we will loop back around and we'll do the Q&A, and we'll hit as many questions of yours as we possibly can. If you hear something really incredible and wise and awesome that you want to share, and I think it's likely you will, go ahead and share it on social if you want to. You can go ahead and live tweet or Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever your preferred channel is. If you want to, you can use the hashtag SLWebinars. That'll let everybody know where you are, what you're learning, and why they ought to be here. That's pretty much everything I've got to say. You know how to use your questions module, and you didn't come here to listen to me, so I'm going to turn it over to Jeff, and he's going to lay down the wisdom. You all just grab yourselves a cup of coffee or chai or wine if it's the evening for you, and take a few notes, and here we go. Thank you, Jeff, for being here.
Thanks, Chip. Glad to be here.
It's a pleasure. I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Okay, thanks. So, team, welcome. I'm glad you're here. I don't know where you are in your career, but the chances are that because you're here with us this morning or this evening or this afternoon or whatever it is, you've got some questions about how to best advance in your career. I've been doing project management training for over 14 years, and I just want to start by saying that the Simplilearn organization is the best organization I've had the opportunity to be affiliated with. And Chip said some nice things about me. I just want to say some nice things about Simplilearn just to get us started. You can see on the screen here that we have hundreds of courses, and every month tens of thousands of people join us for new trainings, and we have a presence all across the world. And the platform that we work on is global. I am actually not in my office right now. I needed to travel, so I'm set up elsewhere, and this is how it works for you. Anywhere you are in the world at any time, you're going to have access to the trainings that are going to help you build your career and increase your skills and abilities to not just serve yourself but also your organization. So Simplilearn is actually not that old. We've been around just a few years. You can see here on the screen that we started small and now we have a global presence. And we do trainings for a multitude of organizations. The one that we're going to be focusing on today is ASM and their ASM certification, Agile Scrum Master. But you may have desires to do other trainings as well, and we've got you covered. And our basic thing is if you want to get ahead, then you need to get certified, and we're the best place to help you with that. Now, I love project management, and I don't know if you've thought about this or not, but project management is really simply the science about getting stuff done. And project management has obviously been around for a long time, but think about this. Things historically like the pyramids in Egypt, the Roman aqueducts, the cathedrals in Europe, the first transcontinental railway in America, all of these are examples of projects. And it required people to figure out how to get stuff done. And organizations across the world, whether it's for software or for building buildings or jets or whatever it is, those are all projects. And as Chip was saying, the number of opportunities for those that are certified and can demonstrate they have the skill sets and the knowledge are almost unlimited. And we'll mention this a couple of times, like Chip already did. Your ability to earn money as a certified ASM, knowing about your organization and how to actually run agile projects is going to enable you to make a lot more money than you would if you were not certified. And it's kind of funny, a lot of people don't like standardized testing, and they think certifications are kind of silly when it comes to how you prove that you have gotten certified. And that's not that off the mark, I suppose, except the reality is if you're in a position to be hiring somebody, what do? You look and see what the certifications are. And while it may not be the best predictor of how you're going to do in the real world, it's where you start, and you've got to have it. And as I'll mention early, a little bit later, the training course for ASM that we do here at Simplilearn actually gets into the how do I do a good job, as opposed to just what skills and knowledge do I need to pass the exam. So it's a very valuable credential and goes beyond the scope of some of the others that are available right now. But back to project management. We're a part of this profession. We like to get stuff done, and we like to work with people in order to get that done. And as a profession, what started as being something informally practiced has now emerged as a distinct profession. Probably around the 1950s or so is where projects began to transition from just being managed on an ad hoc basis, using some simple tools like Gantt charts and other tools and techniques, and then morphing into an area, a management area where specific tools, techniques, best practices were being used. And when we get into the definition of a project and how we end up fitting into all of this, by definition, a project is a temporary endeavor that results in something unique. So what you and I do in our day-to-day jobs is not operations. It's not maintaining things, although we may have impact on operations and may participate in maintenance. What we do is we take things that need to get done and we start at the beginning, and then we help guide them through to completion. And whether we're developing a software application or building a building or expanding sales into a new market, those are all examples of projects that are being run today. And it's even possible, I imagine, that some of you have been involved in some of those kinds of endeavors. Now, as a project manager, our goal is to create for the customer what it is the customer wants. But it goes beyond that, because in order to have a successful project, you have to deliver what the customer wants, but you have to do it on time and on budget, and that requires skills. Now, in the marketplace right now, there are two basic approaches to project management. There is Waterfall and Agile. And at a very high level, the differences are these. Waterfall is a plan-driven approach that favors projects that have clear requirements and focuses on the creation of a master plan up front and then measuring the actual results to the plan in order to determine the health of the project as it goes forward. The Agile approach focuses on projects that are unclear or have changing requirements, and then delivering value to the customer in short, frequent iterations. Now, I got my start in the Waterfall world, and I have my PMP certification. I've had it now for many years. Well, I don't know this to be the case. I would expect that some of you also have your PMP and you're wondering about getting into the Agile world. Some of you may be actually new to the whole certification thing and you're wondering where to begin. I'll mention this again in just a little bit, but I believe that there is value in both the Waterfall approach and the Agile approach. And having gotten started in the Waterfall area first and then later being exposed to Agile, I can tell you that the most exciting way to get involved with project management, at least in my opinion, is to understand Agile and be able to practice it successfully. In fact, just to kind of close that concept there, I think that the project manager of the future is going to need to have a Waterfall certification and an Agile certification. Probably the most two popular Waterfall certifications would be the PMP, which is from PMI, the Project Management Institute, and then Prince 2. And Prince 2 is more popular in the UK and in Europe. I don't see it much in the United States at all, so depending on where you are, and if you decide to also get a Waterfall certification, you might choose between PMP or Prince 2 if you didn't want to do both of them. But whether or not you decide to get certified in the Waterfall, the traditional approach, in today's world, there is no way that you can make what you have the potential of making and be able to advance in your career unless you are certified in Agile. And let me just go here to the next slide here. And the reason that Agile is emerging as being so popular, particularly when it comes to the IT world and software development, is because the Waterfall approach didn't serve that community very well. There were three main problems that software projects run into when you use the traditional Waterfall approach. And one is the burden of heavy documentation. And by heavy documentation, we mean the upfront planning, the status reports, progress reports, the upfront requirements that are collected and documented. There's an enormous amount of effort in a Waterfall project that needs to be done on the front end for it to be successful. But when you're doing projects that have a high level of uncertainty and are subject to a lot of change, like software development, that kind of documentation becomes a burden and it's an impediment to success. And then secondly, the frequent requirement changes that are a part of projects that are uncertain. And the ability to react to the changing requirements that the customer has is very difficult in the Waterfall world, the traditional world. Not that it can't be done, and it is done, but it's just not the most effective way to do it. So that's the second issue that Agile was developed to address. And then the last one is poor quality software. And some of you might be old enough to remember what that used to be like. You know, I've been around for a long time, and I remember when, you know, companies like Microsoft and Lotus and other companies began emerging as these huge software companies. And it was kind of a joke to look at the first release or to get the first release of the software because they were so buggy. And so part of Agile is to address the poor quality software. And when we get into Agile, we discover that there are some techniques and some best practices that have been developed in the Agile world that have caused this quantum leap in the quality and the number of software solutions that are out there. And that's what we're involved in. Now let me just give you a definition of Agile written by Scott Ambler. And if you have been involved in Agile at all, you know the name Scott Ambler. There's a few people that we call thought leaders in the Agile world that were a part of the, you know, the emergence, the creation of Agile, and have contributed significantly to the body of knowledge. And Scott Ambler is one of these. And this sentence right here is one of the most information, knowledge-packed sentences I've ever run across. So Agile is an iterative and incremental evolutionary approach to project development, which is performed in a highly collaborative manner by self-organizing teams with just enough ceremony that produces high-quality software in a cost-effective and timely manner which meets the changing needs of its stakeholders. And that's what we cover in the ASM, the Agile Scrum Master certification course. We talk about how Agile is iterative and incremental, meaning things are done over and over in a format way, not that what's being done is done over and over. So the project actually develops or unfolds in an evolutionary way. It's done in a highly collaborative manner, and when you go through the course, you're going to learn that collaborative and Agile sets a very high threshold. Doing things in a collaborative way means that the team and the customer and the Scrum Master are actually going to achieve consensus, meaning everybody is agreed, everybody's on the same page before work gets done. And the skills that are necessary in order to guide a team and the product owner to a point of consensus is what we're all about. That's what we do, and we cover those skills and techniques in the course. And it's magical to be able to know how to be what we call a servant leader and to be able to guide an empowered self-organizing team without doing the work to having success and becoming a high-performing team is some of the greatest things that you'll ever accomplish in your life, and you will love it. And we cover that in the course itself. And then it says, with just enough ceremony. Ceremony, think of that as like a meeting or event. In Agile, there are certain meetings or events that we do with every one of these iterations. And it's in these ceremonies that we as the Scrum Masters use our skills, our tools, and techniques to help assure the success for both the product owner and the team, but we never go beyond what's necessary. It's just enough ceremony. It's much less than in the Waterfall world, but as you get into the course, you'll see that it is far more effective in the world of uncertain and changing projects. Very effective. And here it says also produce high quality software. We'll get into some of the best practices when it comes to testing. And we'll even share with you a testing triangle that shows the type of testing and the amount of testing that's done by the team and then by the customer, and even some exploratory testing and other things. And these are best practices that have emerged, and you've got to know about them. You don't have to be an expert in them, but you have to know about them, know when they should be used, and know how to assist the team in using them in order to regularly, consistently, reliably produce high-quality software. And then, of course, in a cost-effective and timely manner, while we may not know the full scope of the project on the front end in an Agile project, we know that the business folks, right, the suits, are going to be concerned about schedule and costings, and so we address how we do that in the Agile world as well. And then in Agile, our #1 goal is to deliver to the customer what the customer wants, even if the customer changes his or her mind late in the project. That's what we do. So this right here basically gives you the agenda of our training, as well as getting you prepared to pass the exam. Just to compare why what Chip was saying earlier about the number of opportunities that are available, it's right here. This is a study that was done, I guess it's about 4 years now, that looks at, when it comes to projects that are uncertain and changing in nature, the success rate in the Waterfall traditional approach versus Agile. And just by looking at this here, you can see that any organization that wants to be able to compete in today's marketplace is going to want to do Agile. And Agile is not necessarily easy for an organization to adopt. One of the advantages of the ASM course is we actually have a whole section where we cover Agile adoption. Agile adoption that we cover in the ASM and is a part of the credential is not a part of any of the other Agile certifications, and I have a couple of the other ones. I love that aspect of the ASM, and I think it brings huge value to organizations when you say, I'm an ASM, because it's telling them that, hey, we know that you are going to benefit from using the Agile approach, and I have skills and knowledge to assist in that transition, that journey to go from the Waterfall to an Agile organization. And you are tested on that too. And so we cover it in a way that gives you the ability to have an idea of what would need to be done, and then also pass the exam so that you're the organization that you work for now or another one in the future will know that you have that background. When it comes to a little bit more granular view of the difference between Waterfall and Agile, let's just go over this chart quickly. When it comes to the planning approach in Waterfall, as I mentioned earlier, the emphasis is on upfront planning. In Agile, the emphasis is on ongoing planning. In Waterfall, there are detailed requirements that are defined upfront even before beginning the design and development process. In Agile, the only upfront planning that's done is a high-level backlog, a product backlog, which is really just a list of things that the customer wants the software to do. And then in Agile, we actually take the approach of deferring planning decisions as long as possible, because the more you know, the better your decisions are going to be. So the deeper you are into the project, the better and better you are going to actually be at your planning decisions. When it comes to communications, in Waterfall, it's formal and it's structured. And that serves traditional projects very well. Where the requirements are mostly known up front, it makes sense to be more formal and structured. In Agile, it's not going to work that way. In Agile, the focus is on the people, the folks that are involved in the project and the interactions with them, and so it's informal, but it's constant, it's 360, everybody's involved, and there's a whole set of skills that go along with that, and we cover those in the course as well. When it comes to ceremonies, remember we said ceremonies are basically meetings or events. In Waterfall, there's a lot of project ceremonies, team meetings, formal project reviews, documented status reports, and a focus on details. In Agile, low project ceremony. We do have meetings, but they're limited. We do project reviews, but they're very brief. And the documented status reports don't contain a lot of details. What we're really doing is we're giving to the customer finished product in increments. And so we don't need a lot of status reports. We say, here's what it looks like. We demo it. We let the customer do acceptance testing, and that's how the project moves forward. So in Waterfall, the way progress is measured is with artifacts and milestones. In Agile, it's by delivering working software to the customer. When it comes to change control in Waterfall, it's very formal, and there's even, in most cases, some kind of a board or a group that actually has control or authority over what changes are going to be approved or rejected. In Agile, nothing like that exists. I mean, if there is any, it's not formal. It's all done through that product backlog that I mentioned, and we'll teach you all about that in the course. But that's the tool, or what's contained in the product backlog are the tools that enable the team to know what the customer wants. And if the customer wants to change something, the customer gets to change something, and we embrace it. We say, yay, we get to change something. When it comes to scope control, in Agile, it's very formal, and it's important to do it in Agile projects because on the front end, everything's figured out, and so you can come up with a predictable budget and a predictable schedule, and those become the metrics that are used to determine the health of the project. In Agile, we expect the scope to change and expand in order to meet the needs of the customer. I mean, in Agile, we even embrace mid-course corrections, meaning that into the project, the customer says, you know where I told you I wanted to end up at the beginning? I've changed my mind. I actually want to end up somewhere else. But in Agile, right, that's the Agile means being flexible, right? Now, this next chart here is maybe going to help you decide kind of where you and your organization fit into all of this. So we've got two metrics here. We've got requirements. If you look at the vertical side on the left here, at the bottom, when you begin a project and there is a lot of agreement, meaning we know what the requirements are. And then at the top, it's far from agreement, meaning there's some requirements, maybe even many, that need to be discovered as the project progresses. And then at the bottom, we've got technology, and on the left, close to certainty, meaning how we're actually going to implement the project, how we're going to get it done, how it's going to work, etc., close to certainty. You know, like building a building is a great example of, you know, a project that fits well in the waterfall world. You're going to have all the design docs up front, right? And for the most part, what you do in building a building has been done before. The ability to know what technology to use, how to do it, it's almost certain on the front end. But then if you go to the right, we have the label there, far from uncertainty. And there are projects where we don't know. And you can see there that that green area is the sweet spot for Agile projects. Things that we would label as simple, you know, that's easily knowable or known. And then there's complicated. It's not simple, but it's really knowable. You can get there fairly easily. When we get into the Agile area, this is the complex area, and that's where it's not fully knowable on the front end. It's reasonably predictable the direction we're going to go, but we still have to discover a lot about it going forward. And then we have chaos up there at the top right, and those are projects where it's not knowable and it's not predictable, and there are no real project management approaches that address that kind of a project. But if you were to go out and research, you know, Agile and Waterfall, you would see that you know, these 4 types of projects are addressed. So the world that we live in Agile is that green area right there. Now, we talked about credentialing a bit, and I mentioned already that obviously there is a place in the project management world for both waterfall and agile approaches. But as I mentioned earlier, you're going to need to be Agile certified even if your organization is primarily a waterfall organization. The skills that you will learn as in the Agile Scrum Master course and how to be a leader in an Agile project are going to serve you well in any project management effort you're involved in. In fact, team, it's going to help you in your life. The concepts, the tools, the techniques are so powerful that, at least for me, they were life-changing. It opened up a whole new world, not just professionally, and allowed me to make more money, but just being a better human being. Does that sound goofy to you? And now you know why I have some passion for Agile. It's amazing. Now, we mentioned that the ASM credential increases your earning potential. I suppose you get that, right? You know that that's how credentialing works. Whether you like the idea of standardized testing or not, if you are certified, you make more, and generally it's between 15 and 20% more than other folks doing the same thing that you're doing that are not certified. So if it's a game for you, it's a game, but it's a 20% game. So, you know, if you want to make 100,000, US dollars or more a year, you've got to get certified. And the ASM, we're going to drill down on that just a little bit more, is one of the best ways to demonstrate to employers and customers that you have the knowledge and the skills to actually do Scrum, do Agile. So, and like I said earlier, I think that it's really best to have both. Now, if you've already got your PMP or your Prince 2, doing the ASM is the perfect next step for you as you add to your credentials and advance in your career. If you're new to the project management world, without a doubt, the best place to start is going to be Agile. And in the environment today, while there are other valid, good Agile certifications out there, like I mentioned, I have some of them. The ASM is unique in a couple of ways. We mentioned one already, which is the adoption part of Agile. We're going to mention another one in a minute. It is both the most specific on being a Scrum Master and also the one that addresses an organization's viewpoint of Agile versus Waterfall. Let's see what the next slide here is. I suppose it's worth mentioning that the reason that I think the ASM is so important is because becoming a Scrum Master is going to put you in a position where you can participate in basically 50% of all of the projects that are in the Agile world. Maybe I didn't say that clearly enough. What I'm trying to say is that while there are different Agile methods, Scrum is the most popular, and so if you're going to get into the Agile world and you're going to get a credential, I'm recommending that you make sure it's focused on Scrum like the ASM. So Scrum has become so popular for a number of reasons. One is that it is really easy to understand. It takes some skills and it takes some effort, but it's easy to understand. It makes sense. It might be a new way of thinking about how to get stuff done, but it makes sense. It's got a great deal of emphasis on small and empowered teams. It welcomes changing requirements. It results in shippable software, or at least potentially shippable software, at the end of each sprint. Sprint, by the way, team, is the label of the ceremony that delivers working software. It's one of the iterations. And each sprint is going to be like 2 to 4 weeks in duration, and that means that this is why people love Scrum, is because every 2 to 4 weeks the team is going to be delivering software that works, that can be used, that could potentially actually be released, even if it's only part of the overall project. And of course, this would then lead to the possibility of early return on investment for the customer. And then all of this is proven. And so that's why, most of the Agile projects use Scrum. A Scrum lifecycle sort of looks like this. You have your product backlog. You take a portion of the product backlog, and you're going to complete that in a sprint. Generally, sprints are done, like I said, in a period of 2 to 4 weeks. And so there's, things that go on during a sprint, some on a daily basis, some not. And then at the end of the sprint, you have an increment of working software. And we get into that life cycle in the course. So I know we're not here to learn about it here. I'm just kind of, just piquing your interest a little bit about how it works, and that we're going to cover that in depth when we do the training. So let's cover a little bit about the ASM training. In the workshop, as I mentioned, you're going to learn key concepts about Agile as a management approach and Scrum specifically. We're also going to cover how to actually apply those concepts in your real-world situation. You'll learn how Scrum adds value to the development and the delivery of high-quality projects. We've touched on some of how that is done. The course is going to cover the roles. So there's 3 basic roles in Scrum. There's the Scrum Master, which is what we're about. There's the product owner and the team. We get into that. We cover all 3 roles, obviously, but we drill down on the Scrum Master part. That's the emphasis, because we're going to become Agile Scrum Masters. But we also cover the ceremonies, the different events that take place, what happens in them, how long they should last, etc., and the artifacts that are used to, that are part of the Scrum methodology. And we also get into what best practices to use in getting the most value possible from using the Agile method. Now, who should consider taking the ASM workshop and getting certified as an ASM? We've touched on that a bit, both Chip and myself previously, but let's just review a couple of these things. Anybody that wants to update their knowledge of software development, project management, is going to benefit from this course. If you're a project management professional, you're going to derive value from the course in many different ways. For example, you're going to understand the best practices of Scrum as well as other Agile methods. You'll gain deep insight into Scrum, and you're going to discover how leading a project team and delivering value to the customers can be done in new ways using new skills. You're going to get some practical guidance on how to implement these practices in your organization and how to maximize their value, and it puts you in a position to be an evangelist and a champion of Agile for your organization. And we mentioned that, didn't we, already, that one of the things that the ASM encompasses is adoption. The other area that is covered in the ASM that's not in the others is scaling Agile. One of our modules is dedicated just to scaling Agile. Agile originally was for small teams, small projects, but with the use of technology and the maturation of Agile, you can now do what we call scaling Agile, and you can maintain all of the benefits of Agile in an enterprise-sized project. So we actually get into that in the course itself, and that's another one of the ASM benefits that organizations will look for that aren't a part of others. Let's see, this is kind of the course agenda. We're going to, in lesson 1, we're going to talk about the Agile way of thinking. We're going to get into some of the origins, and we're going to talk about the core principles and the Agile Manifesto. In lesson 2, we're going to talk about the different project management approaches, and we're going to drill down a bit on some of the other Agile frameworks. You won't be tested much on them specifically, but your understanding of them and how they are agile makes an enormous difference in being able to answer some of the questions and also be able to demonstrate that you have a broader knowledge of the agile world than just Scrum. Even though the focus is on Scrum, we're part of a greater family, a larger family. Lesson 3, we get into the value of Scrum, the Scrum lifecycle. We talk about time boxing and what is time boxed in Scrum. We'll talk about the various artifacts that we use in Scrum. In Lesson 4, we get into the roles of Scrum, the development team, the product owner, the Scrum Master, and we drill down, like I said earlier, into the Scrum Master part of things and some do's and don'ts with that. In Lesson 5, we get into some of the more practical things of how to do Scrum. And Lesson 6 has to do with scaling Agile, and Lesson 7 has to do with adopting Agile. The certification itself, team, is, if you go to the EGSIN website, it's going to say that you should plan on having about 120 hours of study. Maybe a little bit less depending on your exposure to Scrum. Also, there are case studies that are mandatory as part of the training that has to happen before you're eligible to sit for the exam. And we do that in the course as well. The exam itself is a 90-minute exam and 40 questions, multiple choice questions, and all you have to do is get 65%. But you know what? It's not an easy test to pass. But you know what? I've been in this world of, project management and training for certifications for a long time. I can guarantee you that you're not going to need 120 hours of study if you take our course on this. This course is so good at covering what needs to be covered and getting you ready for the exam. And Chip, don't shoot me, but I'm going out on a limb here. I think all you really need is to do the course and you can get it done. Maybe there'll be a little bit of after the workshop studying to bone up on a couple of things, and we've got some practice exams to help you do that. But the course meets the requirements to take the exam, and we give you everything you need to crack it. That's what we do at Simplilearn. We are at the best at assisting people to get certified. You're going to get a lot of practical value out of the course. But the main thing is, right, you get that credential so you can get the job or the position in your organization that you want, make some more money, and, get better and better at getting stuff done. Simplilearn, just to touch on this, and I don't know if Chip's going to get into this or if you have any questions about it, but when you sign up for one of our courses, that is a virtual course, you also get access to our learning management system. So there's online tools, there's practice tests, etc. And then we have a community where you can engage with instructors and others that are, involved in the same endeavor you are to learn from each other, get questions clarified, etc. And it's one of the easiest tools out there. I'm going to just quickly skip over a couple of slides here. I'm just going to show you a little bit about what it looks like when you log in, and you will click on one of the classes and what it looks like. Great tools. The Simply Talk Source, the tool, is great, when you're working on your own and you need to go someplace and have some interaction with others and get some questions answered. But it goes beyond that. You can get some career-related input. You can get some ideas from others, for best practices for actually passing the test, etc. So you're going to love this part of our Simplilearn world. And with that, I'm just going to go to my last slide here with how to contact us, and I'm going to toss it back over to you, Chip. Are you ready?
Absolutely. Fantastic. terrific prezzo and really detailed in explaining why this is so valuable to folks and becoming, frankly, just a critical skill set for all kinds of reasons. And we do have some questions queued up, but before we do that, I am going to take over the screen for just a moment here, and not for very long, because Jeff, you did a great job of explaining kind of what Simplilearn is about and what it's like to take a course in the LMS and all of that. So I don't need to spend a lot of time explaining to folks that if they want to earn a certification in Agile Scrum, that our courses are what help you prepare for that. We do more than just webinars, although we do lots and lots of webinars every month on a variety of topics, and sometimes they're like today, they're about the value of certification, and sometimes they're real practical apps, kind of tactical things that cover, you know, digital marketing or project management or software development in various specific ways. But beyond the webinars, the reason we're in business is to help you folks prepare for these kinds of professional certifications, and that's what the training is designed to do. If you're interested in learning more about the training and seeing a tour of what the learning management system looks like, or getting a little guidance in deciding which course is right for your career goals, let us know. We'll have somebody get in touch with you. There's no obligation, but you'll get a chance to see what it all looks like and a little guidance if that's helpful. And as I say, no obligation. So I'm just going to leave that poll up there for just another couple of seconds, and then we'll jump into the questions, because I know that's why people are really here. And so on the count of 3, it's gone away. Let me know. 3, 2, 1, here we go. So appreciate you indulging me with that for just a second. We have a few questions queued up here, and I'm going to try to sort of consolidate those that are similar. The most common question we get, Jeff, I'll actually handle this one, which is the presentation recorded? Can I watch it again later? Can I get a hold of the slide deck? And the answer is yes, we record all of the webinars that we do. They get produced and put up into the system at Simplilearn, and they are, I believe, also being pushed into our YouTube channel. So if you're not already subscribed to the YouTube channel, I would recommend doing that, and you'll be notified when new recordings go up. All right, that said, you know, it's interesting. You know, you mentioned how your Agile and even probably your project management training in general and your Agile in particular, Jeff, helps you with just your life and teaches you skills that you can apply to all kinds of things. Do you remember the 1-Minute Manager? Are you of an age where you remember the 1-Minute Manager being such a popular book?
I do. I remember that.
I remember reading the 1-Minute Manager and thinking to myself, man, you know, the things that they're talking about regarding how to manage people are ways that I could manage my kids, be a better parent, do better things in managing my time in my life in general. And sure enough, they came out with a series of books afterwards called 1-Minute Father and 1-Minute Mother, and so these kinds of business and life skills, it's interesting how applicable they are to so many aspects of our lives. One of the questions that we have here goes to this to the Agile Scrum. You talked a lot about software development, and it seems like that's what the Agile Scrum process specifically was designed for, but I don't work on the IT software end. I manage projects on the business side, things like product launches with regard to PR or sales initiatives, and there's also plenty of uncertainty there. Is Agile Scrum the process for me, or would I be better off with Waterfall or some other method to be more applicable to the kinds of projects I do?
You want me to take that, Chip?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
So that is a great question, and the answer is that it's really not mutually exclusive. So there's going to be value in both, but because of what you're talking about, product launches and marketing, there is a lot of uncertainty in changing things there. So the ability to know and understand Scrum is going to serve you better for those kinds of projects than it will be for just Waterfall. I think if it were me, I would start with the ASM and then consider backfilling with either Prince 2 or with the PMP. And I might just mention another thing too, because this question prompted me to remember that there's something I probably should have said earlier, and that is, while Agile is primarily got its genesis in the software world, consumer electronics is a big place where Agile fits in. The development of wearables and smartphones and other hardware devices where there is software involved, but the actual hardware changes significantly in trying to leapfrog ahead of the competition. That's also where Agile fits in.
Perfect. Yeah, you mentioned several times that you would recommend getting both Waterfall and Agile, and so I think it makes sense that it's going to be appropriate to kind of double dip. And you're right, I didn't think about that. The products like electronics, cell phones and smart TVs and things like that, man, they're constantly competing to put new products out and add new features and what have you. It seems like virtually every industry is having to be more and more competitive in the consumer products space. Is there a particular sector that you see growth in opportunities for project management, and especially in that kind of agile environment, beyond software dev, financial or healthcare or manufacturing at large?
I think in the service industry as well, because technology is a part of that, but also going beyond the technology, meaning the software that goes into it, being able to deliver to an organization or an individual a service that can be changing and adaptable to whatever that person needs, whatever they're trying to deliver with the service. That fits well into the Agile world as well, and it hasn't been so much in the past. It started with software, it's gone into like consumer electronics, and now it's shifting into things like the service industry and even things like running political campaigns, and we mentioned the marketing and things like that. The Agile approach is well suited for that.
You mentioned political campaigns. We've had a couple of presentations and talking about, on the market motive side, the sister company to Simplilearn, where we really focus on digital marketing. We've had some presentations there in the form of webinars about big data and how that's being used, to really do the data mining of voters and whatnot in the political arena, and how that's really changing things. And putting those two things together, of being able to have the Agile experience and skill set along with working with big data, it's a really powerful combination, I'm sure. Is project management, someone is asking here, a career path appropriate to someone who wants to work as a private contractor, or are most of the opportunities on in-house teams and organizations?
I think it's critical if you're going to be a consultant or work on your own. I am engaged in a lot of real-world projects right now, and as a consultant and also as a consumer. And project management was a part of that, and the first thing I look for are certifications. And whether you're going to do your own business as a consultant or whether you're going to be engaging with them, certification is going to make all the difference in the world.
Excellent. Appreciate that. Hope that answered your question there, folks. And you gave a nice breakdown of what the training looks like inside of Simplilearn. I don't know if we saw there how many hours altogether the training process is before you get to doing the certification test with Exin. How many classroom hours, so to speak, are there in the Simplilearn Agile Scrum training?
So there's going to be 16 hours of formal training. And what we usually do is we break up the virtual classes into four-hour segments, and we do a lot of these on weekends, so like 4 hours on a Saturday, 4 hours on a Sunday, and then the next weekend another 4 hours on Saturday and another 4 hours on the Sunday. But we also have some practice tests and online tools, and what we do is we give you some guidance on how to know when you're ready to sign up to actually write the exam. And so we get into a little bit about the how to pass a standardized test. And depending on how you do, based on the metrics that we share with you, you may want to do some more studying and spend some extra time with our practice exams. Some will be ready to write the exam right after, and so it's basically a 16-hour formal effort with some of the homework that's involved. Not a ton, but we do have some homework. And for some, you know, at the end of that whole process, there might be a need to do some more studying and working with the practice tests. But the core thing is the 16 hours plus the homework, and then dealing with the practice test to know whether you're ready to write the exam or not.
Perfect. I really appreciate you mentioning there that it's weekends too, because obviously, you know, the folks that are working with us here at Simplilearn, you're all working professionals already, and you've got careers and jobs and lives, and so we try to organize our schedule around around your life and make things available to you, you know, at the appropriate time. When folks are sitting for the certification test, is you gave us a great breakdown of kind of how many questions and what the passing percentage is. Are these essay questions or multiple choice questions? What does the test look like?
It is 40 multiple choice questions with 4 possibilities, A, B, C, or D. The questions are more scenario based, so that to answer a single question you need to have an understanding of a number of things in order to get down to the correct answer. And we'll chat in the course a bit about how you actually deal with sorting through the questions, and there are some good test-taking skills that will allow you to go through the process of getting to the correct answer. For example, one of the tools we'll talk about that will serve you well is doing the process of elimination. When you do a standardized test, it makes more sense to see which answers you can throw out, you know, eliminate, than to just focus on what the correct answer is, which is sort of counterintuitive, but that's one of the reasons we're so good at Simplilearn. Is we not only cover the material and assist you in your real-world application, but we also help you know how to actually pass the exam so you get the credential.
That's perfect. Thank you for that. I hope that helped, Mohammed. I got time to squeeze in one more question here, I think, and then I'm going to share some links with you folks too, so stick around and keep an eye on the chat module here in just a second, and I'll share some links in there for you as well. But we'll squeeze in one more question here. Let me pick the best one that everybody's going to really benefit from. Let's do a career skills question here. So if I'm a working project management professional and I'm trying to present myself well on LinkedIn, aside from just adding which certifications that I've earned, do you have any other advice for how to present myself well on LinkedIn? Is it appropriate to list a bunch of specific projects that I've managed, or is it better to focus on which business brands I've worked with? How can I present myself best on LinkedIn?
Well, this is me, and there may be others that have a different opinion on this, but when I'm on LinkedIn and I'm looking for somebody, I don't care as much what company they work for. I want to know what they did. So I know you can't share proprietary information, but I'm looking for projects they worked on and what was involved in the project, so I can discern whether they have experience using the skills and the tools and the techniques that I know are going to be important for my project. So that's my approach there.
That makes perfect sense, and yeah, I can imagine that there are some privacy issues. You know, you don't want to give away any details of the projects that you've worked on that might be proprietary information, but at least the sort of project it is, that makes total sense. Perfect. I appreciate that. Folks, take a look at the chat module here. I'm sharing in a series of links for you. And what this is a couple of shortcuts to some of the project management and Agile Scrum courses that we have available. Whoops, I'm sorry. My copy says that it's AWS and security links, but they're not. They're links to project management. So take a look at that. There's a link to the project management courses, a link to the Agile and Scrum courses. There's also a link to a series of upcoming webinars and resources focused on Agile Scrum. So you'll see there some materials and articles about building your career there that might be helpful as well. And lastly, there's a couple of links on a couple of upcoming Agile Scrum demos. So if you want to participate in a webinar like this that is a demo of what the class is going to look like, and it'll show you what the LMS operates like and what it's like to be in a class. There are two upcoming demos in August on Agile Scrum, one on August 17th and one on August 30th. And these are at 7:30 a.m. Central Time, I believe. So go ahead and click through and take a look at those and join us if you can. Jeff, that's it. We're at the end of our hour. We've actually gone 2 whole minutes over. Thank you so much for your time today.
You are welcome. And to the team, can I just say good luck in your careers? I wish you the best, and I hope our paths cross again and that we can be of some mutual benefit.
I'm sure that'll be the case. And as well from myself, thanks everybody for joining us. And I know that for some of you it might have been in the middle of the night or late into the evening. So thanks for making time in your busy schedules. And you're welcome. Richard says thank you, Jeff. He enjoyed what you had to offer. And with that, we'll wish you a terrific rest of your morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are, folks. Thank you, Jeff, for hanging out with us today. And thank you, everyone else, as well. Have a great day. And we'll talk to you next time. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.